But this is the way that people have often won elections. Now, Donald Trump thinks that low wages in this country are just fine. I believe he says having a low minimum wage is not a bad thing for this country. Donald Trump believes that our wages are too high. Donald Trump believes that we should give huge tax breaks to billionaires. So while they get us to try to hate Muslims or Latinos, giving huge tax breaks to billionaires and not raising the minimum wage. Our job is to be smarter than that. Our job is to stand together and say, no, we're not going to fall for it. We're not going to hate Muslims. We're not going to hate Latinos. We're going to stand together as one people and create a country that works for all of us.
So instead of having a rational discussion about how we rebuild the middle class, how we deal with Wall Street, how we have a tax system in which the wealthy and powerful start paying their fair share of taxes, what Trump is saying is it's all the Muslims' fault. It's all the Mexicans' fault.
How do you explain why that's doing so well right now?
Because it's an easy solution. How do we rebuild the middle class? Well, you're going to have to stand up to corporate America. You're going to have to stand up to Wall Street. You're going to have to create millions of decent-paying jobs by rebuilding our infrastructure. You're going to have to provide health care to all people, et cetera, et cetera. But what Trump says, and this is new, this is what demagogues all over the world historically have done. They say, are you nervous? Are you scared? Are you frightened for the future? I'll tell you the reason. It's the Muslims. All those Muslims out there are terrorists. We have to stop them coming into this country. It's the Mexicans. It's the immigrants who are coming in. They're all rapists and criminals. Oh, okay. Now I'm angry. We're going to take it out on them. Meanwhile, this same Trump says the minimum wage in America, which is $7.25 an hour, he says it's good that we have a low minimum wage. This guy Trump is saying we need to give hundreds of billions of dollars in tax breaks to the top 0.3%, the very richest people in this country.
How do you defeat that?
You defeat it by going out to the working people in this country and making it clear that if we are going to create an economy that works for our kids, that works for working families, we have got to do it together. We have to understand the real causes, and the real causes are the greed of corporate America, the greed of Wall Street, not some poor Mexican who is in this country trying to live on $7 an hour.
At this moment, with all of the fears and anxieties that people have about terrorism and about the economy, there are demagogues out there, people like Donald Trump, who once again are attempting to divide us up in xenophobic and racist ways. They want us to believe that people from Mexico coming into this country are rapists and criminals. They want us to believe that the average Muslim is a terrorist, and they want us to stop Muslims from coming into this country. And unbelievably, in defiance of the basic tenets of our Constitution, there are some who are even talking about shutting down mosques like the one we are in. And I should say, since Trump's incendiary comments, we have seen in this country, shamefully, an increase in hate speech and attacks on the Muslim American community, including death threats directed at Representative Andre Carson of Indiana. I have talked to Muslims in this country who are frightened. A young Muslim American recently told the New York Times, quote, "I feel the last 2 months have probably been the hardest of my life," end of quote, and I think that person speaks for many thousands. It is time to say enough is enough. It is time to end religious bigotry. It is time to build a nation in which we all stand together, Catholic, Protestant, Jew, Muslim, Buddhist, all religions, and work to create a nation that benefits all of us. What it does say is that as a country, we have got to start focusing on the real issues. And maybe we've got to be talking about why the middle class of this country has been declining for 35 years. How much do we talk about the fact? And how many of you viewers even know that we are the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a right. We talk not enough about climate change and the fact that the scientists, despite Donald Trump, are almost unanimous in telling us we have a gigantuous crisis on our hand if we don't transform our energy system. Those are the issues in my mind that we have got to talk about, not just attacking one or another candidate.
Don't you think
that as a United States Senator and as President of the United States, I am going to do and have done and will do everything I can to combat the bigotry and the ignorance of Donald Trump and people like that. All of you know who know American history, the struggle that this country has gone through for hundreds of years to fight against discrimination. We had to deal with slavery. We had to deal with the terrible deeds that we did to the Native American people, the prejudice against Latinos, against Italians, against Irish, against Jews. And we had hoped, especially after electing the first African-American president in our history, that the blatant bigotry that we're seeing today was behind us. But apparently it is not. And it is incumbent upon all of us to stand up to Donald Trump and to tell him that his bigotry, his trying to divide us up, his insults to the Mexican and Latino community, to the Muslim community, to women, to veterans, to African Americans. That is not what this country is about. We will not accept it for 1 second. When we see instances of racism, when we hear political leaders appealing to the worst elements of us by making racist attacks against people from another country or people whose color may be different than most of us, we have got to stand up and say, in America, you're not going to do that. Racism is unacceptable. I am sad to say that in the year 2015, people like Trump are using racism as a way to attract votes. You don't talk about Mexican Americans or people from Mexico as rapists or as criminals. That is not what we should be talking about in this country today. I would have hoped we would have gone beyond that kind of racism.
What he says, some of the people who've come into the United States, the illegal immigrants from Mexico, some of them turn out to be rapists or criminals.
Well, and so do some white people, and so do some black people, and so do some everybody people. But his remarks were totally objectionable, and they were racist.